All right, good morning. This meeting is called to order. Mr. Trobman, has anyone signed up for public comment? Thank you very much. Good morning, Ms. Miller.
Good morning, sir.
We have no cases to reconsider under agenda item 3, is that correct?
That's correct,
Oh,
sir.
thank you. We will now move to tax liability cases on agenda item 4. I believe we have 4 tax cases on docket 20.
Yes, sir. The first case is TD-20-014-0220. Commissioner Demerson?
I agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree with staff's recommendation.
Mr. Chairman?
Agree with staff recommendation.
The second case is case number TD-20-063-0420. Commissioner Demerson?
Agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman?
Agree with staff recommendation.
The third case is TD-20-064-0420. Commissioner Demerson?
I disagree with staff recommendation and would hold that the MUT engineers are not in employment. The Commission has ruled in several oil industry cases in the recent past that consultants like the claimant are independent contractors. Just like the MUT logging engineers in case TD-10-012-1209 on docket 30 in 2010, well site supervisors and drilling rig consultants in case TD-097-1009 on docket 42 in 2010, the centrifuge technicians in case TD-12-045-1211 on docket 36 in 2012, drilling consultants, construction consultants, safety consultants, completion consultants, engineering drilling superintendents, and pumpers lease operators in case TD-14-077-0414 on docket 48 in 2014, and the health, safety, and environment consultant in the UI Commission appeal number 2131-834 on docket 34 in 2017. The MUD engineers are all skilled consultants and oil industry experts who may work for a variety of companies and who work without any meaningful supervision. The company does not instruct or train the workers, but lets them determine on their own how to do the skill work in question. Consistent with the Commission's decisions in the above cases, we should hold that the MUD engineers are not in employment.
And Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman?
Agree with staff recommendation.
I'll mark you as a dissent on that, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And the last tax case on docket 20 is case number TD-20-065-0420. Commissioner Demerson?
I agree with staff recommendation.
Commissioner Alvarez?
I agree with staff's recommendation.
And Mr. Chairman?
Agree with staff recommendation.
Thank you, sir.
We have no fair housing cases under agenda item 5, is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you. Let's move then to agenda item 6. We have no wage claim cases pulled for additional discussion on docket 20.
That's correct. You should have received the short form dissent list.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining wage claim cases on docket 20.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I am dissenting, as reflected on the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 20.
And I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I'm dissenting, as reflected in the wage claim short form dissent list for docket 20.
Motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Let's move then to agenda item 7, in consideration of unemployment insurance cases on docket 20. You can proceed when you are ready.
Yes, sir. The first case is case number 2456892. Commissioner Demerson?
The claimant's MR should be denied. The claimant was discharged for failing to wear protective clothing on the premises and for being untruthful when questioned by the employer. In his MR, the claimant alludes to the new evidence consisting of a picture of an area of the building that does not require protective gear. However, the claimant did not actually provide this new evidence, so he does not meet the first criterion. In addition, this evidence will not change the outcome of this case. The claimant was required to wear his safety gear in his office because it was attached to the laboratory area. The claimant admitted that he removed his shirt while in his office. A photograph of another area of the building has no bearing on that point. Moreover, the employer's safety policy clearly states that the employees need to wear PPE in an area not necessarily designated as PPE required area. Since the claimant failed to meet 2 of the 3 requirements for a successful MR, the claimant's MR should be denied. and the underlying decision should be left in full force and effect.
The MR should be granted. The claimant has photographic evidence to show that he was in an area that did not require wearing protective clothing. He did not offer the evidence earlier because he had to get the photo from a former coworker. The new evidence could change the outcome of the case if it shows that the claimant did not violate the employer's protective clothing rules. Therefore, we should grant the MR to consider the claimant's new evidence.
Grant the motion for rehearing.
Thank you. The second case is case number 2466747. Commissioner Alvarez?
The AT decision should be modified. The claimant only attended 2 days of skills testing with the employer, after which she was told that she was not qualified for the assignment. Although the employer told the claimant they would pay her for the 2 days of testing and try to find her another assignment, the employer never contacted the claimant again. The claimant stated that she has never actually paid, which is why she was actually never paid, which is why she didn't report the earnings. However, even if she had been paid for the 2 days, not reporting these earnings was not such a serious omission that it should result in a finding of fraud and a large overpayment. This type of issue could have easily been corrected by an earnings adjustment for the week in question, as is usually the cases when a claimant only fails to report earnings during one benefit week. We should modify the AT, no fraud, recalculate the overpayment based on the earnings adjustment.
The AT decision is fully supportable. The claimant engaged in paid training for a call center assignment through a temporary staffing service, but failed to report her work and earnings on her weekly claim as required. She initially denied having undergone paid training, but later admitted as much and told TWC she did not know why she made her initial statement. She also denied having been paid, although the employer gave TWC documentation showing the payment number, and the employer reported the earnings to TWC for the third quarter of 2019. The claimant was an experienced filer of unemployment claims and had received warnings in the past concerning earnings adjustments and the need to report all work and earnings. She's a college graduate and has no valid excuse for ignoring the clear instructions on each weekly claim to report wages when earned. Accordingly, we should affirm the AT decision. The claimant committed fraud, overpayment of $5,754.
Affirm the AT forfeiture provisions applied August 11, 2019 through July 25, 2020, overpayment.
Short form dissent.
Yes, sir. Short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The third case is case number 2467002. Commissioner Alvarez?
The AT decision should be reversed. Although the claimant's initial drug screening came back positive, the claimant has provided medical evidence to show that his prescription medication is shown to have caused false positive results, including a note from his doctor that makes it clear the claimant's medication is well known to create false positive urine toxicology screens. The claimant also submitted a subsequent hair follicle drug screen that showed he was negative for any substances. Therefore, there is substantial doubt about the accuracy of the initial drug screen. As such, the employer has presented insufficient evidence to overcome the claimant's denial of illegal drug use. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, bill reimburse an employer.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision. The employer provided all the required documentation to overcome the claimant's sworn denial of illegal drug use. The claimant tries to argue that his prescription medication resulted in a false positive result. However, consensus among medical literature is that confirmation of the drug test using the GC/MS method weeds out such erroneous results. Therefore, because the claimant tested positive for an illegal substance and his sample was confirmed by the GC/MS method, the claimant was discharged in accordance with policy and for misconduct connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision, misconduct, reimbursing employer, not billed.
Affirm the AT misconduct, reimbursing employer, not billed.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The fourth case is case number 2469572. Commissioner Alvarez?
The AT decision should be modified. The claimant changed her address during the appeal period, which constitutes a timely appeal to the determination. With regard to the job separation, the employer alleged 3 acts of misconduct: a vague allegation of a medication error, which was not supported by any documentary evidence or testimony. The employer alleged that the claimant failed to complete case notes. The claimant provided sworn testimony that she handwrote though she handwrote notes because she was having trouble logging into her iPad. The employer provided no testimony evidence to rebut the claimant's testimony, nor could the employer provide testimony as to whether the claimant had ever demonstrated the ability to complete case notes to the employer's satisfaction. Finally, the employer alleged that the claimant violated the employer's policy by failing to provide a resident transportation in her personal vehicle. The employer's access to community policy was admitted into evidence, and it explicitly states that the claimant was supposed to make clients aware of transportation services in the area. It does not state that the claimant was required to provide transportation in her personal vehicle. The evidence is insufficient to establish misconduct connected with the work. Modify the AT, timely claimant appeal, no misconduct.
The AT decision should be affirmed. I agree that the claimant's appeal was timely. As to the job separation, the claimant's testimony confirms that she did not take any reasonable steps to ensure that case notes were properly entered into the employer's system as required. Since the claimant worked with a sensitive population, it was imperative that she enter client notes into the system to keep the employer apprised of the patient's status. The claimant's failure to do so placed the health and safety of others at risk. The claimant also testified that she did not read the employer's policies before signing them, and as a result, she did not take a client out of town as required by policy. The claimant mismanaged her position of employment, and we should affirm the AT decision. Timely claimant appeal, misconduct.
Affirm the AT, timely claimant appeal, misconduct.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The fifth case is case number 2470585. Commissioner Demerson?
The appeal tribunal decision should be reversed. The claimant was asked to provide a statement about an incident between two students. After the claimant provided a statement, she and another teacher's aide pulled one of the students involved in the incident out of class. This establishes that the claimant knew or should have known that an investigation about the incident was taking place. The claimant's subsequent questioning of the student was therefore highly inappropriate, given that the claimant was accompanied by the other teacher's aide, who had also provided a statement regarding the investigation. The record also appears to indicate that the student was in the 4th grade. Moreover, the employer stated that after the meeting with the student, the claimant and the other teacher's aide did not escort the student back to the classroom as they should have. The employer stated that the student could have engaged in self-harm or left the premises due to improper supervision. The claimant admitted that no one gave her permission to take the student out of class, and she is not authorized to conduct investigations on behalf of the school administration. As such, the claimant's actions were inappropriate, outside the scope of her job, and constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore reverse the AT decision. Misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant was discharged for speaking to one of the students involved in an altercation during an after-school program. However, the claimant had previously intervened in a similar manner with prior disputes, and the employer raised no objections at that time. The employer provided insufficient evidence that the claimant attempted to coerce the student, and the claimant denied the allegations under oath. As the employer had allowed similar behavior before, the claimant's actions did not rise to the level of misconduct. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
Reverse the AT, misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The sixth case is case number 2471246. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be modified. The claimant was absent 3 days due to illness. The claimant properly reported the absences and provided a doctor's notes for the absence. The note, which is in evidence, states that the claimant's absences should be excused. It does not describe that absence as only being 1 day. Because the claimant was absent due to illness and provided a doctor's note for that absence, the evidence is insufficient to establish misconduct connected with the work. Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, MBI.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant continued to be absent from work after receiving a final warning for attendance. Moreover, given the limited evidence regarding the claimant's medical issues, I would agree to an MVI. I would not agree to an MVI in this case. We should affirm the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, misconduct, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The seventh case this morning is case number 2472121. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be modified. The claimant was living and working in Texas. The claimant had to quit his job and move to Yuma, Arizona to care for his ill spouse. Because the claimant quit to move with his spouse, the claimant should be disqualified for no more than 6 weeks. Modify the AT, quit to move with spouse, 6 weeks disqualification, no chargeback.
The appeal tribunal decision should be affirmed. While I empathize with the claimant, he quit his job due to personal reasons and without good cause connected with the work. We should therefore affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The next case is case number 2475200. Commissioner Alvarez?
The AT decision should be reversed. The evidence established that the claimant's final absences that led to his discharge occurred from September 24th through September 28th. The claimant's absences for this period were due to a medically verified illness. While the claimant might have missed the employer's imposed deadline for turning in medical paperwork, the claimant was hospitalized during that period. Additionally, the claimant's medical documentation showed that his final absences were directly related to his medical condition, which was why the employer ultimately approved the claimant for FMLA, even if that approval occurred after the claimant's discharge. Reverse the AT, no misconduct, bill reimbursing employer.
We should affirm the appeal tribunal decision because the claimant failed to provide his medical documentation to the employer during the available 14-day period. He failed to comply with the reasonable employer request and was discharged for misconduct connected with the work. We should affirm the AT decision, misconduct, reimbursing employer not billed.
Reverse the AT, no misconduct, bill the reimbursing employer.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Demerson. The ninth case this morning is case number 2476163. Commissioner Demerson?
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. I agree that the claimant had good cause for her non-appearance. As to the job separation, the claimant was discharged for poor job performance, most notably her failure to order proper tests. The claimant stated that she never asked for training. In addition, when testifying about the difficulty in reading the employer's handwriting, the claimant also stated she was supposed to ask her supervisor to read the note to her, but she did not want the coworker to have to read her every note because the supervisor would be doing the claimant's job. This indicates an unwillingness to ask for assistance when confronted with an assigned task and undermines the claimant's contention that she was working to the best of her ability. The employer also stated that the claimant would refuse to do things as instructed and would instead do things her own way. Accordingly, we should modify the AT decision. The claimant had good cause for a non-appearance, misconduct.
The decision should be affirmed. The claimant missed a hearing because she was sick, which is good cause. Regarding the job separation, the employer testified that the claimant never performed to the employer's expectations. She had little prior experience in this type of work. Despite being trained and warned, her performance never improved. The employer provided overwhelmingly evidence that the claimant was not able to do the job. As such, the claimant was discharged due to her inability, which is not misconduct. Affirm the AT, good cause for the claimant's non-appearance, no misconduct.
Modify the AT, claimant established good cause for AT1, misconduct.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The next case is case number 2478122. Commissioner Demerson?
The appeal tribunal decision should be reversed on timeliness. The named employer, a school district, has no employees available to receive mail because the employer was closed during the holidays, so their mail was held. When the employer returned, it received the mail and appealed the TWC document. Since the employer's mail was held, the employer did not receive it until after returning from break. As such, we should reverse the AT decision on timeliness, timely employer appeal, resubmit for merits testimony.
We should affirm the determination was timely delivered to the employer's correct address. The employer filed a late appeal because they were closed for the holidays. There are no good cause exceptions to the timeliness rules. Therefore, the employer's late appeal should be dismissed. Affirm the AT, late employer appeal, bill reimbursing employer.
Affirm the AT, untimely employer appeal, bill the reimbursing employer.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Demerson. The 11th case is case number 2483027. Commissioner Dimerson?
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. While the AT found that the claimant was discharged because she never met the employer's expectations, in order for the claimant to be qualified under this rationale, we need to find that the claimant worked to the best of her ability. Since the claimant has been indicted for a third-degree felony stemming from her alleged theft of more than $62,000 from the employer for credit card transactions which occurred during the claimant's tenure, I find it impossible to believe that she was working to the best of her ability. Because the preponderance of the credible evidence established that the claimant mismanaged her position of employment, we should reverse the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant was discharged for unsatisfactory work performance. She worked for the employer for less than a year and never demonstrated the ability to perform the job to the employer's satisfaction. While the employer now makes an allegation that the claimant engaged in theft, the allegation is unproven and was not previously offered by the employer when the claimant was discharged or in its response to the notice of claim. The preponderance of the evidence establishes that the claimant was discharged for her inability to perform the job and not for misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no misconduct, chargeback.
Reverse the AT, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The next case is case number 2483034. Commissioner Dimerson?
We should reverse the appeal tribunal decision. While the claimant had every right to quit due to the reduction in her pay, the pay reduction was less than 20% of her regular wage. In addition, there is no testimony that the employer was delinquent in paying the claimant as required. As such, the claimant failed to establish good cause connected with the work for quitting, and we should reverse the AT decision. Voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant had difficulties getting paid as agreed, and the employer then notified the claimant that she would have a reduction in her pay of almost 19% because of the employer's financial difficulties. Given her problems being paid and the reduction in her pay, the claimant had good cause connected with the work to resign. Affirm the AT, no voluntary leaving, chargeback.
Reverse the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback, adequate employer response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The next case is case number 2485707. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be reversed. After her assignment ended, the claimant called the employer and was told that no further work was available at that time. The employer did not tell the claimant that she needed to come to the employer's office and sign a logbook. As the claimant reported for further work and was not told of any additional requirements, she was separated due to a lack of work. Reverse the AT, no misconduct.
The AT decision should be affirmed. The claimant did not read the employer's reassignment policy. As a result, she did not report in person to sign the availability log as required when further work was available. Since the employer's reporting policy was reasonable per commission president, the claimant's failure to sign the log constitutes a voluntary quit without work-connected good cause. We should affirm the AT decision, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Affirm the AT, voluntary leaving, no chargeback.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The 14th case this morning is case number 2485843. Commissioner Dimerson?
We should remand this case back to the appeal tribunal. The sole issue in this case is the employer's reimbursement liability. The claimant's initial claim was dated 12/29/2019, and agency records indicate that the claimant worked for the employer through fourth quarter of 2019. Yet, the AT failed to take testimony of the claimant's employment during this time. In fact, the AT focused on a job separation from the second quarter of 2019 rather than on the most recent job separation prior to the initial claim. Thus, we should remand this case to develop the record regarding the correct job separation.
The AT decision is supportable. The claimant worked for the employer as a substitute teacher. The nature of the claimant's job made his work irregular and as needed. Therefore, the claimant was involuntarily separated at the end of each substitute assignment for reasons that did not constitute misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, bill reimburse an employer.
I concur with Commissioner Dimerson.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The next case is case number 2486219. Commissioner Demerson?
We should modify the appeal tribunal decision. I agree with the wages in lieu decision. As to the job separation, in December 2019, the employer learned of issues with reports the claimant submitted to the General Land Office a couple of months prior. According to the claimant's testimony, she did not seek assistance with these reports because she wanted to prove herself and figure it out, even though the employer had staff that could help her. As a result, when the deadline for reports arrived, the reports were still incorrect and the claimant submitted them late. The claimant's actions cost the employer thousands of dollars in fines. By refusing to ask for help when she knew that she needed it and failing to ensure that the reports were timely and accurately submitted, the claimant mismanaged her position of employment. We should modify the AT decision. Misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response. The claimant did not receive wages in lieu of notice.
The AT decision should be affirmed. I agree that the claimant did not receive any additional pay other than the wages for the time that she was employed. On the separation, the claimant was discharged because her work was not satisfactory to the employer. She only worked for about 6 months and never demonstrated an ability to perform the job to the employer's expectation. Additionally, the evidence established that the claimant worked to the best of her ability. Finally, the claimant never received any formal disciplinary action before she was let go. The claimant was discharged for reasons other than misconduct connected with the work. Affirm the AT, no severance pay disqualification, no misconduct chargeback.
Modify the AT, misconduct, no chargeback, adequate employer response, no wages in lieu of notice, disqualification.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez. The last case pulled is case number 2488191. Commissioner Alvarez?
The decision should be modified. No misconduct, no chargeback, MBI, void adequate response. The claimant was on intermittent FMLA. She had to leave work early due to her medical issue. She entered her time off as PTO leave because she thought that she had the time to cover it. When it was brought up to her attention that she didn't have enough PTO, she discussed the issue with her supervisor, who indicated that they could correct the issue when the supervisor returned from vacation. However, instead of allowing the claimant to change her time off to FMLA, the claimant was discharged. The claimant was on intermittent FMLA and had to leave work due to her medical issue. She was separated as a result of her medical issue. Modify the AT, no misconduct, no chargeback, MBI, void adequate response.
The appeal tribunal decision should be modified. The claimant was discharged for taking unscheduled leave. The employer testified that even towards the end of the claimant's employment, she was notified to be sure she was following the attendance procedures. The claimant had also received a final attendance warning. As such, the claimant's actions constituted work-connected misconduct. We should therefore modify the AT decision, misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate response.
Modify the AT, misconduct, no chargeback, sever adequate response.
Short form dissent.
Thank you. I have a short form dissent for Commissioner Alvarez, and that was the last unemployment insurance case pulled for discussion on docket 20. You should have received the short form dissent list.
I move we accept staff recommendations on the remaining UI cases on docket 20.
I second the motion except for those cases on which I am dissenting, as reflected on the UI short form dissent list for docket 20.
I concur with the chairman's motion, except for the cases on which I am dissenting, as reflected in the UI short form dissent list for docket 20.
The motion passes with the exceptions noted.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. This brings us to the end of agenda items 3 through 7. Let's pause for a couple minutes to reset for the rest of the meeting. Let's move to agenda item 8, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding the 2019-2020 Customer Service Report for submission to the Legislative Budget Board and Governor pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 2114.002.
Good morning. My name is Jessica Santiago. I am an ombudsman in the Customer Relations Department at TWC. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, for having me this morning. Today, I am presenting the TWC Customer Report for 2019-2020. This report is required by statute to be submitted to the Governor's Office and the Legislative Budget Board on June 1st, each even-numbered year. We had the opportunity to speak with you or your staff and receive input and feedback on this year's report. We incorporated the comments and edits received by your offices, and I look forward to working with everyone again. Highlights of this year's report include robust information on the launch of the new workintexas.com and the continued outreach, increased number of employers who have registered online for new accounts using TWC online unemployment tax registration system, and new efforts to improve assisting claimants and employers. As each of you noted during our meetings, we will continue to monitor customer satisfaction for our TWC programs to ensure we are providing the highest level of service to our customers. I am seeking your approval on the 2019-2020 Customer Service Report, and if necessary, allow staff to make any technical and non-substantive changes for final publication and submission of the report. Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions?
I have a few, Chairman, and just wanted to put a couple of things. Great report, by the way. Love it. I've had an opportunity to look at it a couple of times. I just had a couple of ideas, and I wanted to know if it would be okay with the support of my fellow commissioners, if we could, what they thought about these. On page 12, line 17, after the first sentence, insert. So I would ask on page 12, line 17, to add, the annual apprenticeship conference helps to provide employers, employees, and educational institutions information needed to create partnerships that create a skilled pipeline of workers. That was one. The other was on page 13, taking the next steps section. After line 12, insert the following. Texas Workforce Commission continuously improves subject matter presented at annual conferences such as apprenticeship conferences, child care, and workforce conferences using survey feedback to refine and develop relevant content for our customers. Just recommendations.
Additional questions or comments?
None here.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the 2019-2020 Customer Service Report for submission to the Legislative Budget Board and the Governor pursuant to Governor Code, Texas Government Code Section 2114.002 with the recommendation and the additions that I just referenced.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you. This is agenda item 9, gifts and donations, discussion, consideration, possible action regarding the acknowledgement of gifts and donations of $500 or more in value given to the Texas Workforce Commission in accordance with Section 301.021 of the Texas Labor Code and Chapter 575 of the Texas Government Code.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, and Mr. Cerna. For the record, Sarah Hernandez with the Office of General Counsel. Before you here are the gifts and donations of $500 or more in value given to the Texas Workforce Commission for the first quarter of 2020 for your acknowledgement and acceptance. Pages 7 through 10 of your packet are spreadsheets showing the gifts and donations. Staff recommends approval of items 1 through 14. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. I have no questions, but I do need to make a comment. In reviewing the list of gifts and donations, I note that the first line item is a travel-related gift or donation for travel that I took part in. Therefore, I will recuse myself from participating in any vote related to that specific line item. Are there any additional comments or questions?
No, Chairman.
None here.
Is there a motion?
I move that we acknowledge the gifts and donations valued at more than $500 as discussed by staff.
Second the motion.
Having recused myself from the vote on line item 1, the vote passes by majority vote. We're unanimous on the remaining items.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm showing we have nothing for agenda item 10, so we'll move to agenda item 11, discussion, consideration, possible action regarding guidance on resource utilization and implementation of services and strategies to target disaster relief efforts and public health emergencies, including those funded with the Department of Labor's Disaster Dislocated Worker Grant.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Reagan Miller with Child Care and Early Learning Division. This morning, I have 3 COVID child care items for your consideration. The first issue seeks your direction on closing essential worker child care applications. TWC approved child care for essential workers on March the 24th. This was initially implemented in light of school closures and the fact that many essential workers who had kids in school hadn't planned and budgeted for childcare for those months, as their kids were normally in school. It was designed as a short-term benefit to meet an immediate need, so childcare was only authorized for each child for 3 months while they made arrangements for their longer-term needs. Essential workers who needed childcare have had over 1.5 months to access it. Based on this, we're seeking your direction on closing essential worker childcare at the end of the day on Wednesday, May 20th. Any applications received through that date will be processed. Applications received after May 20th will not be approved and processed, and the children who were approved will finish out their 3 months of childcare. The second issue we're seeking your direction on is reinstating the parent share of cost for at-risk families. TWC waived this for all at-risk families effective April 1st. We noted that many parents would be unable or unwilling to pay, as many parents were unable to access childcare. Prior to yesterday's announcement from the governor that childcare is now open to all families, only essential workers were authorized to bring their children into regulated care. With the governor's reopening of childcare to all families, they will again be able to access childcare in order to work and will be able to begin paying their parent share of costs. We're seeking your direction on aligning the reinstatement of the monthly parent share of cost for at-risk childcare with the opening of childcare to all workers. TWC would no longer waive all parent share of costs, and effective June 1st would reinstate the parent share of cost requirement for at-risk families. And the last issue that we're seeking your direction on is how we manage the CARES Act funding that is being used to support the higher costs of childcare based on lower ratios and group sizes. Currently, we have a 25% enhanced reimbursement rate in place for childcare providers. Boards are using a portion of the $200 million supplemental CARES Act distribution to support this. When we initially distributed these funds, we did not take into account the use of funds for this purpose, and our distribution methodology does not account for the varying proportions of open versus closed providers in each board area. We're seeking your direction on deobligating $100 million of the $200 million supplemental distribution, redistributing a portion of these funds based on each board's estimated need, and that's based on the number of open providers in that workforce area, as noted in attachment 1, and then distributing any additional funds based upon actual need. We believe that this will help us better manage and direct these funds based on the agency's policy for supplemental payments and based on where programs reopen across the state. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any comments or questions?
No, Chairman.
No, and just thank you guys for the work.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to ask one question, maybe more, but I'll start with one. So all the actions we're taking today, all of the children who are in daycare via our program for essential workers, those families will complete the 90 days that they were originally told they would have, regardless of this action today.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and so signups will remain in place through tomorrow or the next day?
Through tomorrow, through close of business tomorrow.
Okay, and I mean, I think our research has indicated that the number of essential workers that are out there, the vast majority have already applied for this. There's not been a new category of essential workers that have been declared recently.
Yes, we have had it available for a month and a half. We have seen those enrollments taking place. And again, this was intended to really help meet that interim need when families were not prepared for schools closing and likely could need assistance covering additional costs for childcare during that time.
Yeah. Okay, hey, thank you. You guys have been incredibly nimble on this. It's just been a very rapidly changing environment. Government's not always known for its nimbleness, and I sincerely appreciate the efforts you and your team have put in to ensure that we're keeping up with what's going on in the marketplace. People have noticed that, I have noticed that, and really encourage you to continue that level of nimbleness as we move into the future.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for all your efforts. Are there any further questions or comments?
No, sir.
Do we have a motion on this item?
Yes, Chairman. I move that we close the acceptance of new applications for COVID-19 essential worker child care on Wednesday, May 20th, 2020, and reinstate the parent's share of costs effective June 1st in alignment with any modifications from the governor to open child care to non-essential parents. I further move that we deobligate $100 million of the $200 million April distribution to boards as described in Attachment 1, and that we make additional funds available to boards based upon actual need as discussed by staff.
Second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. We're unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also have one informational item that I'd like to let you know about.
Yes.
We have been analyzing and reviewing the current policy that waives the 3-month period for child care parents who lose their job to look for work. We've also been reviewing the waiver of the absence policy. In light of the reopening of the economy, we're analyzing this to determine if we need to modify those policies, particularly in light of any changes that may happen on the unemployment insurance front. So we will be developing some recommendations and presenting those to you on June the 2nd.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Good work, Reagan.
Thank you.
Reagan, thank you.
We have an update from Clay.
Good morning, Chairman Daniel, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Demerson, Mr. Cerna. For the record, Clay Cole, Unemployment Insurance Division. UI continues to add capacity in terms of our phone system and staffing. UI continues to hire emergency hires, and our partner call centers continue adding resources. Our partner call center answered the most calls yesterday to date. This is really helping TWC experienced staff focus on highly skilled assignments and also to make more outbound calls for highly needed customers. Finally, we plan to deploy our Genesis Cloud IVR this week. This will provide a big boost for call routing and customer messaging. We've been a little behind. We've hit some system test snags, but this is really going to help us in processing our calls and providing more messaging to customers that are calling us and really eliminate almost all busies. Pandemic unemployment assistance federal income tax approved processing continues to accelerate with the new batch of temporary staff onboarding yesterday. And UI continues to work closely with communication, IT, finance, and operational insights on messaging outreach and data analytic for reducing and preventing unnecessary calls to our call centers. And teams over the weekend identified some significant groups of individuals with similar needs that we're performing some data corrections on and outreach this week to really, we think, will help reduce a lot of the inquiries we're getting, because these are segments that we think, like I said, we've identified ways that we can help along and really just eliminate a lot of calls and inquiries to us. We continue to actively work on plans as businesses reopen in Texas. We'll be presenting a plan at the next commission meeting on the job refusal, work search, able and available assignments. We expect to really start coming our way. Also, internal, external volunteers continue to be trained and repurposed for improving our service delivery. TWC trained hundreds of external volunteers last week, mainly from TxDOT, And we have nearly 630 external volunteers that are assisting us to date. This concludes my update, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions or comments?
No, Chairman.
None here. Thank you.
Clay, is it, it would seem to me, just in reading reports and listening to you talk, that I always call it continued claim. Our IVR systems continue to perform as expected, yet we continue to make enhancements to those as well to accommodate folks who are now in the system, initial claim filed. The ability for people to call and request payment remains robust and is performing as expected. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, in terms of our payment request system, we're at a good capacity there in terms, again, most of those people are being serviced over the internet. Where, again, we have great capacity there. They can request payment, but even our interactive voice response systems are still doing a good job. And one thing we're doing too is, again, we're still enforcing the payment request day, which is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And then Thursday through Saturday is the open dates. So we're seeing good results there. We did, when I was talking earlier about a segment of a group we identified, we did identify the group that we identified as a group of people, for whatever reason, they just haven't requested payment. And it's a significant number, but we're not sure, exactly why, because even a lot of these people are people that are the self-employed that haven't been in our system, and that might be some of it, just not being familiar with the system. But even when we enrolled these people on the pandemic unemployment assistance, we sent them emails, advising them, please, now it's time to go request payment. But a lot of these people haven't requested payment, and so we're actually going to do a huge outreach effort to all of those individuals, advising them, please go request payment. This is how you do it, and this is when you do it.
So you're providing additional technical assistance for self-employed and other contractors who may be new to the unemployment system?
Yes, sir, exactly.
Yeah. I understand from reports that I've been provided that we're doing some outbound calls. I assume all are along these lines of being very proactive with our technical assistance, identifying trends among groups of people who may not be where we would expect them to be in the system, and that those efforts will continue?
Yes, sir, they will continue. And some of that is part of the new Larry the Bot 2.0, to where we're actually collecting some data and getting information that points us to specific needs and assignments. And so, yes, we're going to continue to use that data and other data, like you said, trends we identify, to continue to outreach those people to get them on the right path.
Well, I sincerely appreciate your creativity in helping to address some of these issues. We continue to see some news reports of some delays for folks and some things like that. And I wish there was a way for us to share all the different tools that we've deployed to help identify ways that we can help people faster and perhaps sometimes even better. And I know there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. I, for one, really appreciate the efforts that you're doing. I think it would be premature to say that our volumes of initial claims are going down. They are down a little bit, but not enough for us to say that there's a trend. And so we know that there's work still ahead of us. But it would seem to me, based on everything that I have been informed of, that once that initial claim is filed and perfected, the system is working as intended and on schedule, and I know that's due to the work of you and your staff, and I really do appreciate the efforts that you're putting in here.
You're welcome.
Commissioners,
Thank
other
you.
comments or questions for Clay? None?
No.
Thank you, Clay.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh, sorry, one more.
It's all right. I wanted to defer to Commissioner Alvarez first, as always, but I think there are a lot of folks that are new to this process, and want to kind of express, as you said, to almost over-communicate in the sense of the availability of this new technology that's out there that will allow them to move forward. But appreciate the work that the team's done, but over-communicating and getting the word out so that folks can properly file, because it is new to a lot of individuals, makes sense for me.
Commissioner and Chairman, if I may add to that. So Clay, great report and, great work that you and your staff are doing. I certainly want to acknowledge that. And of course, those folks that are answering the phones on a daily basis, and I literally mean that on a daily basis. All I ask is, while you're going through this process of return to work, we've had some interesting conversations with various organizations, and we would like an opportunity to provide you with some feedback that they're providing to us, and also some of the things that my attorneys have drafted up that I'd like to share with you, if that's okay. If you or someone from your staff could visit with us at some point prior to your June visit with us. So appreciate that, and thank you.
We can do that. We can do that.
Clay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We have no other items, Mr. Chairman.
All right. That concludes everything on agenda item 11. Tom, you have a report for us today? All right.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Alvarez, Commissioner Dimerson. Tom McCarty with External Relations. Last Friday, the U.S. House passed H.R. 6800, the Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act, also called the HEROES Act. The bill includes $3 trillion in stimulus, including relief to state and local governments with direct cash payments, expanding the unemployment insurance and food stamp funds. The bill includes the following provisions related to TWC administered programs: extension of federal pandemic unemployment compensation, as well as the pandemic unemployment assistance through January the 31st of 2021, extension of interest-free loans for state UI trust funds advances until June 30th, 2021, $7 billion for child care and development block grant, and just over $2 billion for employment and training services. The U.S. Senate has not announced a schedule for consideration of the bill at this time. We will be monitoring that, though, and we'll notify you when we know more. We're also monitoring one federal hearing this week. Tomorrow, the U.S. House Education and Labor Subcommittee on Workforce Protections will hold a hearing at 10:15 a.m. titled Examining the Federal Government's Actions to Protect Workers from COVID-19. This concludes my remarks. I'm available if you have any questions.
Any questions?
No, Chairman.
No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cerna.
I have nothing under the Executive Director's Report today.
Thank you. Is there any other business come before the commission?
If I may, for the record, I'd just like to acknowledge that this Friday is Chairman's birthday, and so just wanted everyone to wish him a happy birthday. Don't know how comfortable he would feel if we sang it to him today, but to acknowledge it,
The
sir.
open government requires no singing of happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday to you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any other order of business to come before the
Mr.
commission?
Chairman, is Commissioner Alvarez done?
Yes.
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay, thank you. Three quick things. I want to congratulate the 2020 graduates that are out there and letting folks know that employers are hiring and internships are available. And so those graduates that are coming out there, even in this time of layoffs and furloughs, we have employment opportunities and want to encourage those students to take advantage of that as well. Secondly, Bonnie Downs on my team has, I want to say congratulations. She brought Carson Fletcher into the world yesterday. And so 7:31 p.m. And so he's new to the world.
Awesome.
And so Bonnie's gotten that done as well. And then lastly, I have a proud SMU graduate, Stephen Dimerson. They're not listening to this at all. They don't listen to what we do.
not awake.
No, not at all. But class of 2020, and real proud of that moment.
Congratulations,
So,
Aaron.
Pony a Mustang from that line.
Congratulations.
Congratulations
Thank you,
to all.
guys. All right.
All right, anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we are adjourned.